after he was introduced in a similar fashion. And he got up and he said, "My only regret is that my parents weren't here to hear it. My father would have loved it, and my mother would have believed it." For me, treat is not the word. It's a chus, it's an honor, just to stand here on this dais. You know, Hergel Nasa Teva. I know, I see the derech eretz that your Rav gets, but I'm not sure if you know what you have here in Miami, in South Florida. I'm quite a few years younger than Ableib, but I remember him from two perspectives. One, I remember him when I was in yeshiva, and he was from the Elter Bochrim. I wasn't even in the Zal then. I used to see him by Chazara. Everyone knew that Abel Shapiro is... But then it worked out that we were in Keilel at the same time. To fragen wie you should understand that I left Keilel after 2 years. I was still the youngest one in the Keilel. And he was from the Jungelite. And I still remember the interactions that I watched between him and Reb Zalman Shimon Dvorkin, Olav HaSholem. And I could see, it was like, oh, that's what it means, a Chassidish Rav. A Chassidish Rav. The Chassidish Rabbanim have exactly the same Shulchan Aruch that not yet Chassidish Rabbanim have. It's not the Shulchan Aruch. It's the Rav. It's an entirely different mahus. I'm not sure if you can count on one hand the number of Chassidish Rabbanim, emes Chassidish Rabbanim, that are both Chassidim and Take Rabbanim in the world. But one of them is right here with us, and I have to tell you, honestly speaking, it is for me an entirely intimidating experience. But I can only hope that he doesn't listen. You know, when I was asked to come to speak, and, you know, you know, you have to have, the Rebbe once said, you have to say something that's a mavil al harayan, you know, like it's like some kind of outstanding, whoa! If not, it's not a speech. And we've been doing this already 45 times, 44 times. Everything that could be said, you would think, was said. Elamai, the Rebbe taught us, yeah, I know the Alter Rebbe said it, but the Rebbe taught it. And the real question is, what does a Siyum HaRambam and Hascholas Rambam mean to us today in Tov Shin Pei Hey 2025? And I was thinking, like, what do we need right now? If I were to say, here's the Rambam, you'll find in it what you need. What do I need? What do I need today? It would seem, and I speak not just simply for myself, I know without a question of a doubt, I speak for every mother and grandmother and probably daughter among the Jewish people. There is not one of them that did not spend a good part of last week in tears. I know men don't have feelings, but we're going through a time right now where halavai, I could not only get up and dance, but get up and dance and feel it. No, so what does the Rambam have to say about that? And how would the Rambam, how does he address it? No, you don't have to look far. Probably all of you are thinking exactly the same thing. What is he talking about? It's the end of Hilchos Shefer and Lulav, Sukkah and Lulav. The last halach is there. The Rambam addresses exactly that. And the Rambam says the following. I should know it by heart. Hasimcha sheyismach adam b'siyas ha-mitzvah, the joy that a person should have when he does a mitzvah, uba'avas hakel shetziva behen, and the love to Hashem who gave us that mitzvah, aveda gdeilahi. It's a tremendous aveda. V'chol ha'meineya atzmei misimcha zu. But anybody who holds himself back from living this simcha, ro'ui lihipare mimenu, is worthy of being, I don't want to say the word, but it's not being rewarded by the Eibishter. As the Pasuk says, Tachas asher le'avadatas Hashem elekecha b'simcha v'tuv levav. That why did all of the things happen as the Torah describes them so horribly and graphically in the Teichacha? Because you did Averis, because you didn't learn Rambam, because you... No. Tachas asher le'avadata, you take a serve the Eibishter, but you didn't do it b'simcha. And because you didn't do it b'simcha, that's why it would seem the Torah is saying you deserve all of the incredibly terrible things that are here. And I grab my head and I think to myself, oy vavoy, okay? So not only do I have a problem here, but it's like the Rambam just made it 100 times worse. That it's not something I would like to have. Not having simcha is like Shem Shamayim. And Taka, why? Why? What is the Torah saying to us? What does the Torah want from a bacher who gets up, gets up in the morning at 6 o'clock and goes to the mikveh and learns chassidus and davens and tries to remember Pirush HaMilas, and then sits and he learns. Okay, so he didn't learn every single minute, but he learned a whole day and did everything he needed to do. And he lays down at night. Oh my God, that was hard. That was like, oh, tomorrow morning I'm going to do it again, but am I going to jump out of bed b'simcha? I don't know. I can tell you how I get out of bed. And the Rambam says, if you don't get out of bed b'simcha, whoa, it's terrible. What is he saying to us? And it's not a theoretical question at all. Now, to be able to understand it, I want to give one preface. Define simcha. What does it mean to be happy? What's a person who's happy? Another word for happy is its opposite, sad, right? What's sad? If we can understand what sad is, then maybe we'll have an understanding of what happiness is. What's sad? Describe a sad person. You know what a sad person is? A person who's sad, a person who's depressed, is a person who is alone. He's alone. He can be in a room with 500 people, and he's all alone. All alone. That's a person who's sad. That's a definition of sadness. And I know it. It's like, it's without a question. Forgive me if I want to say a personal story. I hope it's appropriate, and if not, betich mechila. We had a little boy who got sick at the age of 4 years old, and he was sick for close to 2 years. And at the very end, towards the end, the doctors said that he has to have a bone marrow transplant. For anybody, it's a terrible procedure. For a pitzele, it's like hell on wheels. And he was going through it. And he had to be in isolation, and everybody had to wear gowns and masks. Those days, they didn't b'chlal, a mask was something. And it was very difficult. And at one point, my wife was helping him do something, and he was sitting on the bed, and he gave out a scream. It's not fair. So I did what any normal father would do, a responsible father would do. I ran out into the bathroom crying. My wife couldn't run away. She was in the middle of this. So she says to him, Yesh Leimi, you're right. It's not fair. But we're in Golus. And that's what Golus is. That little children have to have a broviac, or that another little child has to, that's Golus. And we keep asking the Eibishter to take us out of Golus. And he closed his eyes, and he crunched up his fists, and he gave a geshrei. This Golus stinks. Nobody ever described Golus in a more articulate and philosophically correct manner. It stinks. And we want it over, finished. And we're sad because we're in Golus. And when we're in Golus, we feel alone. We feel all by ourselves. We're like, there's nothing worse. And then the Eibishter comes, and he tells us, Sinishtazeh. I remember once hearing from a chaver on Perek Chavov in Tanya, where the Alter Rebbe describes the cheshech of being alone, of darkness, and says about it to remember that it's Yeshev B'Seiser Elyon. In that darkness, where you think you are all alone, it's black, it's horrible. Nishtazeh, you're not alone. Yeshev B'Seiser Elyon. The Eibishter is right there with you, even in the black. And perhaps dafka in the black. So, what it is that we need to do is remember that the Eibishter is with us. Okay, no problem. My Zayda once went by Keshel Bracha, this was already L'Seif Yomov. He was close to 90. And he was still, the yeshiva was on his head, and he said to the Rebbe, Der Masse wird schon treglach. The load is becoming unbearable. So the Rebbe made with his hand, and he said, Hashlech al Hashem Yehovcha. Throw it on the Eibishter. The load is too heavy. Throw it on the Eibishter. The next day, my Zayda wrote to the Rebbe and asked him, how? Taka, you need to do it. But how? And I would suggest that Rabbi Korf just read the words that tell us exactly how. The Rambam, right at the very beginning, when he tells us, Yesed ha-Yesed is v'ameid ha-Chochmes, as the Rebbe explains it, that the most fundamental and important thing that every single Yid needs to know, not just as something for his library, something for his intellectual curiosity, something for his grasp of Torah. No, the fundamental principle on which every other mitzvah rests, what is it? Leida sheyesham matzui rishon. To know that there is a primary being, a first existence. V'hu mamtzi kol nimtza. And he is the one who brings in all of existence. V'chol hanimtzayim mishamayim v'aretz v'masha b'neihem. All other existences in heaven and on earth, and that which is between heaven and earth, they exist only because of his existence. So you need to know that everything, that the Eibishter is the first existence, and all other existences come from that existence. Then the Rambam continues, the second thing we need to know as a fundamental principle, and if you will think, well, that's a simple way of saying it, he'll think, he'll imagine, that he does not exist, so nothing else could exist. And the Rebbe asks the first basic question, what did the Rambam just say? He told us that everything comes from the Eibishter, and all existences come from the Eibishter's existence, and without the Eibishter's existence, there's no other existence. Okay, we got it. Now we've got to tell you something else. And if you say he doesn't exist, then nothing else could exist. Well, that's what you just said. That's what you said in Sif Aleph, that everything comes from him. What is the Rambam adding? And not just simply adding, but this is a foundational principle, a pillar upon which Yiddishkeit rests, halacha rests, a Jew's life rests. That what? You also need to know that if the Eibishter doesn't exist, nothing else would exist. Of course, that's what it means to believe that the Eibishter brought everything into existence, or to know that the Eibishter brought everything into existence. Why? What's the Rambam adding here? And the Rebbe explains, based on something that the Ragachover said, and explains, and I'll like Rabbi Shapiro said earlier, it's a long sikha, it is a deep sikha. I'm not even going to tell you go learn it, because it's not a simple sikha to learn. Well, those of you who could learn a sikha, adrabah. But the Rebbe explains, based on the Ragachover's principle of the Ragachover, that what Torah is, Torah takes the world and divides the entire world into two things, chiyuv and shlila, positive and negative. And every single thing that comes in, that exists in the world, one of two things has to happen with it. Either you use it out in a positive way, the way Torah wants you to use it, the way Torah teaches us to use it, or if it's something prohibited, that you push it away as Torah commands you to push it away in the negative. That's everything in existence. It occurs to me that, in fact, this Siyum and this Ragachover is the basis for just about everything that we know of the 21st century. The technological advances that we lived through in the end of the 20th and beginning of the 21st century are based on this Ragachover. And it's probably because the Ragachover was mamtzi, this mitzias, which is how science came across with the discovery that changed, literally continues to change the world, and what those of you that are not in yeshiva probably have in your pockets a smartphone. What's pshat? What's the single most fundamental change or technological change in the world in the last 100 years? The most important one. It's called a computer. Computers changed our world. What's a computer? A computer is based on the Ragachova's principle that everything is either a 1 or a 0, or a combination of those. Everything is either a 1, a positive, that's what it's based on. It's based on this Rambam, on this Ragachova. That's what the whole world, the Rebbe Marash once said, that it's on the end of Pirkei Avos, where the Mishnah says, Kol ma shabara HaKadosh Baruch Hu be'elam le'broi ela lechveidei. Everything the Eibishter created, he created only for his own kavod. What's pshat for his own kavod? So the Rebbe Marash explains that everything that exists, not just simply begashmius, everything, time, space, metzias, everything is for one reason, l'chveidei. That in every moment of a person's life, he has a choice. Do what the Eibishter wants, l'chveidei, or chalela not. That second goes by and another second comes. And you have that same choice again. Do what the Eibishter wants or don't what the Eibishter wants. It is a constant, ongoing thing. And here, is our problem. Many years ago, Adin Steinsaltz came to Stanford. The JCC brought him, and they made it very clear that even though he evidently had rumors that he was a Chabad, this is not a Chabad event, and we shouldn't think that, it's not our thing. I came. He was supposed to speak on his new book called A Book on Shabbos. He comes in, he sits down, takes the microphone, and he says, I want to speak about Tanya. And he spent the next hour talking about his book on Tanya. Was his Seder B'chlal. Bein Advarim, he said something very interesting. He said, there's this concept that people have, a saying, as is schwer zu sein Yid. It's hard to be a Jew. People think that means hard to be a Jew. Why? Because they persecute us, because they hate us, because they're anti-Semites. He says, that's nothing. It means nothing. It is nothing. That's not what it means. Es schwer zu sein Yid means if you're Jewish, there is no downtime. You're always on.
Rabbi say, it is not respectful that a guest from out of town came to speak and other people are talking at the same time. If you need to speak, please exit the tent. Thank you. Shh.
He said it. I didn't say it. Okay. There's no downtime. That's a hard thing. Every moment you're on. How is that possible? How can we be on every moment? And that's what the Rambam says right here in the beginning. You say how you say this, the Yisayid of the fundamental principle of all principles is to know that the Eibishter, he's not just in some, but rather he's Motzui Rishen. He is in existence. Now the question is, what do you mean he's in existence? The Eibishter is not in existence. Ein guf, ein leidus haguf, and what kind of existence? So the Rambam continues. What does it mean? Not pshat chalela that the Eibishter is in existence, and there are no words that we can use other than this word. Because why? We want to explain that v'hu mamtzi kol nimtza. Everything that exists, he created it. He brought it and brings it into existence. V'chol hanimtzoim, everything, every minute, every problem, every difficulty, every existence, every mountain, every hill, every person, everything, he brought it and brings it into existence. Asher lezeis, you need to know that you are never alone. The concept that the Eibishter creates everything, obviously. The Rambam is coming to tell us that he constantly creates. He is the creator of everything. He is in everything. He's part of everything. As it's explained in detail in Perek Beis in Shar Yichud V'Emunah. Azoigar. Then the Rambam goes on to the second Perek, the second Sif. V'im yala al hada'as. Not, I'm going to think something stupid. The Rebbe says those words are very careful. If ya'ala al hada'as, you think to yourself, no, it can't be. It can't be that the Eibishter is in my problems and in my difficulties and in my hurt and in my anguish. The Eibishter is bigger than that. Shehu einay motzi, he's the Eibishter. How can you say the Eibishter? The bli gvul ha'amiti is in my problem. That's not the Eibishter. It's my narishkeit, it's my idiotskeit, it's my hurt. And that can't be the Eibishter. So the Rambam says, Yiseid ha-Yiseides v'ameid ha-chochmes. The fundamental principle that everything that you have and everything that you do and every mitzvah and every machshava and every needs to be imbued with this realization that it has to be. It's real. I told you it's real. He really created this world. He's so much higher? No. If he remained so much higher, then this world wouldn't be a real world. It wouldn't be a real... Our mitzvahs would mean nothing. Our good would mean nothing, just like we think that for him our bad means nothing. It means everything. Ein davar achal yachal lihi matzes. If we can't grab this concept that the Eibishter is in every single moment of ours, really, completely and entirely, he is with me in that darkness, in that hurt, then you're living in a dream world. It's a shlucha once wrote to the Rebbe, and she was complaining. She was sent to a far away place. This is before they had the Ragat Shover Samtza of computers inside a phone, and it was far, and it was difficult, and it was hard. And she was writing to the Rebbe, pouring out her heart. And the Rebbe wrote back to her a 2-page letter. The very last words were, "Fortunate are those who the captain has chosen, for they perform many tasks." You are fortunate. You were given a shlichus, and nothing could be better than that. We have the incredible schus of having the Rebbe giving each and every single one of us, individually, every one of us, a part and parcel of himself. I'll leave the story for the Farbrengen later. The bottom line, it's the greatest gift that the Rebbe gave us. Of all of the gifts he gave us, was the gift of Rambam. Do you know why? The Rebbe told us to do a lot of things. The miftzayim and learning, and ain't shir. The thing about them, though, is that when you finally finish the day and make the cheshbon, you never can really say to yourself, today I did what the Rebbe wanted. I learned the way the Rebbe wanted me to learn. I got as many people to put on tefillin as the Rebbe wanted me to get to put on tefillin. I davened. It was good maybe, but I can't say with a full heart, I did what the Rebbe wanted. I learned 3 prakim Rambam. I did what the Rebbe wanted. We need to grab that gift. We need to grab that incredible schus that attaches us to him, attaches him to us, and together as we mucha him and he muches us, and in the Rebbe's words, "Vel ma'es muchen de geula hamitzvah shlema."